But as we're coming in today, there is some news out there. I mean, right out of the gate, Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor have verbally agreed. I'm getting a little annoyed. It's a little bit annoying. I mean, look, if you guys are going to fight, let's fight. All you need is a promoter to say yes. It looks like we have that. Dana put a real offer out there, and then it looked like maybe that wasn't going to come together. But if one promoter comes in, another promoter can come in. Floyd's got a promoter's license. You got the fighters that have agreed. You got the media that won't quit talking about it. The fans are obviously there. It seems like if you guys are going to fight, just go out and fight. But one of the things about this and the report that I just quoted, which was that these two have verbally agreed, and I have no details on it. The details may be out there, but I don't have them yet. It was reported by ESPN. Well, that changes everything, right? If somebody's talking about this, we've got a good story. We've got a talking point. If ESPN talks about it, it's totally different. Their vetting system is totally different. Their reputation, their credibility, it's totally different. So when ESPN finally goes on air and says there's a verbal, the speculation is done. That means there's a verbal. Does a verbal constitute that a fight's going to happen? No, absolutely not. Because before you get all the pieces in place, you then also have a legal element, which is that Dana White and the Alphabet can step in and say, that's our guy, we got him under contract. And they can push back. Do they have a legal argument? Not that I know of, but does that mean it doesn't exist? No, it doesn't mean that they don't have one. They could end up in a court, they go before, who knows what will happen. All I'm saying is, if ESPN says there's verbals, then there are verbals. And I will tell you, does that mean that now we have a fight? No. There's still some parts that need to come out. And from the small blurb that I was able to read on ESPN, didn't allude to anything else. They just said that they have verbally finally agreed on something.
I'm going to stay away from that. I don't see it happening without... I mean, how could it happen? It's not going to happen in the United States. I mean, because the UFC is going to come in and put that in every possible court in the world.
Maybe. Well, they could put it in every court. They could also go, let's do the fight. They could do that.
If they're going to promote it, they could do that. What do they stand to gain by having Conor McGregor go out and make, a couple $100 million or $100 million without him? What do they stand to gain? That's the product they built. Now, Conor is the talent, and he's done a magnificent job. But without the UFC, he's not the Conor McGregor that we have right now.
All right, so listen, all I can ever do, I don't know what Coker's going to do. I can just go, what would I do if I was Scott? I don't know what Dana White's going to do, but I can go, okay, what would I do if I was Dana? So that's what I'm going to do now. If I'm Dana White, I agree with you. I do not put the fight on if I'm not involved. I have a guy under contract who is a star. He's a star because of me. I built him. I got him out there. I did the media. He's my guy, and I have the right to capitalize on it. That is the business. Extremely transparently and forward and upfront. There is nothing shady or behind the scenes about that. However, Coker and Dana White, for reasons unknown, quite frankly to me, for reasons unknown, have a policy that any one of their athletes can go grapple at any time that they want. Now, legally, you do have to get permission from either one of those bosses. But both of them, with both of their companies, have said publicly, go right ahead. If it doesn't involve a strike, I don't have a problem with it. So nobody has gone into a boxing or a kickboxing realm. Nobody's gone and done MMA for anybody else for obvious reasons. But they have said, look, if a blow is going to be derived in this kind of a contest, an injury could be sustained, a likely injury. That's going to put my commodity, which is you, the athlete, on the shelf. And those promoters only have one commodity, and that is the athletes. So they want to try to protect them. At the same time, they have allowed them to go out and grapple, and nobody's sustained an injury in that yet. Eventually, when that day comes, the grappling is going to go away too. But the point is this. They do let guys go and compete in other places. So if I'm, in this case, it would be Dana's call. If I'm Dana, I'm not going to let that fight happen. I'm just not. I'm going to go, look, you want fights, you want money, you want headlines, you want main events. I've got all those things. It's not something that you can go get somewhere else, and I'm just not equipped to do it. I have all of those things, which is why you signed with me to start with. That's a very fair and candid answer. Now, if Dana wants to be a good guy, and it looks like he does, Look, you guys want to box. This isn't what I do, but I do like boxing. I am a promoter. I've got the ability to put this on. Then I will. Here's the numbers. And he did that as well. So Dana's hands are completely clean on this. He didn't stop anybody from any opportunity whatsoever. That doesn't mean that those guys are going to agree and that Floyd's going to be able to work under Dana. Here's what I can also tell you about Floyd. But this could be old news. Floyd, at one point, when he had his Showtime contract, it was a 6-fight deal. But all of those fights were also to take place at the MGM specifically, not just Las Vegas. It couldn't go to Mandalay Bay, UNLV, any other venue. It had to be at the MGM. So whether Floyd had an MGM contract or that was Showtime that had the contract and then Floyd was the third piece of that triangle, I don't know, but frankly, it doesn't matter. He had to fight on Showtime and he had to fight at the MGM Grand. I believe that Floyd fulfilled that contract. I do not think, one, that he's tied to Showtime, or two, that he's tied to the MGM Grand. But if he is, if I'm wrong and there is still one left, to your initial point, that would make things exponentially more complicated on them should the UFC want to stop this. Because now you're talking about coming to their commission in their state in a sport that they created and that they funded. You're going to have some major political push and pull. You initially said if this fight's going to happen, you think that it has to leave the country. I'm not really sure where you got that, and I really don't think that Floyd would agree to anything like that. And Floyd is steering the ship. This fight does not happen without Floyd, obviously. So I think that there's some moving parts there. But I do think that you are going to need Dana to say yes. And even if Conor wants to get Trick in, we've heard, well, Randy came on the show. Randy explained to us why Conor went and got licensed in California as a boxer. And that was so that he had protection under the Ali Act. I don't believe through the Ali Act, and I've learned a lot about this, Raphael Davis. Joel, do you remember Raphael Davis? Nickname of Noodle, All-American, Cal State Bakersfield, great fighter, teammate of mine. The Rain Training Center. He is now finishing up and going to be a lawyer, and he wrote an entire dissertation on the Ali Act. He brought me up to speed on this. He's going to come on the show. He's going to break it down for everybody. But the point is, I've learned a lot about that act. I'm not sure that act, I'm not sure that Randy was completely correct, respectfully. I'm not sure he was completely correct in his argument that if Conor is licensed in California and his protection through that act would then give him an ability to get around the UFC contract. That's a separate entity. And the UFC currently, MMA, is not under the Ali Act. And I don't think that Conor would enjoy those same benefits the way that some people had speculated. I will also offer you this. You are going to have a commission issue. Now, a commission is going to want to sanction that fight. They're going to get greedy. They're going to want to do it. They're going to want to sell this and go, look, this guy's a 2-time world champion. He can protect himself in there, and we're going to do it. But it's not as easy as that. There could be a PR disaster that shuts this whole thing down quicker than a judge ever could, because don't forget, Conor does not have a record, and now you're saying he can take on the greatest of all time. It's not as cut and dry and straightforward as you might think, should somebody with PR abilities want to create a mess here.
I tell you, I don't know why. I said this a couple weeks ago, it might have been last week, that everybody wants to fight. Dana said, okay, I'll promote it. The two fighters have said, okay, let's fight each other. ESPN's reporting that they've agreed to terms. The fastest way to get this done is get the UFC involved and let us as fans sit back and see what they're going to do. If it does happen without the UFC, it's going to happen in another country, possibly Ireland, possibly Croke Park. I don't know the legislation and what would need to happen there, but I do know if Conor boxes Floyd, he better make a shitload of money, because if he does it without the UFC's good graces, that'll be the last time he ever fights.
Yeah, I hear all of that. You're not wrong on any of that. I'm on board with you there, but again, in the world of speculation, and I've been one of the guys that from the jump has said this fight is going to happen. Now, that's just me guessing, but I've been very clear to say, look, the history of all combat, and it started with boxing, the hardest thing to do is to get the two guys that you want to say yes. That's the hardest thing to do. Getting the media, getting the fans are very important, but it's not hard. It either happens or it doesn't. It happens organically or it doesn't. Getting a promoter to sign off is the easiest part. It usually starts with the promoter and then goes down to the fighters. Well, in this case, you've got two fighters, two colossal giants from two different forms of fighting, from two different countries that have already said yes. Once you get that, generally you have a match. But I will agree with you. If the UFC is not involved, and again, if I'm them, if I'm sitting in Dana, I'm stopping that fight. I've got a guy under contract. I have a right to participate in anything that he does financially, and I'm not letting it happen.
Well, and there's a trickle-down effect, too. A couple weeks ago, Jose Aldo came out, said, I'm going to get my boxing license. Cody Garbrandt came out, said, hey, I want to fight he went to a Golden Boy promotion fight. He said he wanted to fight the winner in a unification bout. So now the trickle down effect is money. How can I make the absolute most money in the shortest period of time doing something that I don't do? Because Conor's doing it. We've talked about it. Conor got the suit. Now everybody's wearing a suit, but they don't have the words coming out of their mouth. I'm a boxing fan. I like the big shows. I've watched them my whole life. Do I care about the champions of our sport, boxing? No. It's not going to do anything for me. Cody might be able to be a great boxer. Jose, too. I don't know, man, but I do know one thing. They're great MMA fighters, and I want to see them fight the best MMA fighters. As a fan, the pay to the top guys is becoming substantial. Is it equal? No, but it's substantial, man. Cody just won a championship. He's on a show right now. I think they're filming it right now. Man, keep your eye on the prize.
I hear everything you say. What show is Cody on? On The Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, they did start filming that. You're right. They are filming right now. They started 2 weeks ago, so they're partway through the process. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He and TJ are out there on the set right now. This has to be considered, though, because there's a rule in politics. You never punch down. Okay, if you were the president of the United States, you do not go after a governor, but a governor will come after the president. The president won't even respond because you don't punch down. All you can do is elevate somebody. When these MMA guys are trying to go over to boxing, it is a little bit confusing. Boxing is one element of MMA. Boxing has a history and it's been around a long time. But to act as though that's a complete form of fighting when MMA has completely disproven that since 1993 at its inception, I find it a little bit odd. I find it a little bit odd that they're not luring the boxers over to MMA. They're saying, hey, I want to go over there and box. And I'm not sure what they're seeing. I realize that the top guys in boxing are doing big numbers. They're doing big gates and big pay-per-views and big contracts, and they're cleaning up. But the money in boxing as a whole is not what it is in MMA. The box offices as a whole can't even touch MMA. Can't even touch it. You're having, on a maximum, in a 12-month calendar year, a maximum, oh my goodness, of 2 big boxing fights a year. Usually you end up at 1, and we have seen several years of drought where there is 0. So the money and the exposure and the opportunities that are going around boxing cannot even begin to compare to that of the guys in MMA. And that's all the guys. We're talking about the champions right now. We're talking about Jose Aldo wanting to go over and do something like that. Jose, I don't know who's gotten in your ear, but there's not a boxing promoter in the world that's going to pay you 7 figures, what Dana White's paying you. And the same thing goes with Cody. That could change in time. Now, Conor's in a unique spot. If you're talking about Conor going into boxing, so what? You could even throw in a big boxer. Throw in Manny Pacquiao. Throw in Triple G. I mean, go through the list. Who's the Mexican fighter that we both like? The redheaded Mexican kid.
Alvarez. Canelo.
You throw in any of those names, you've got nothing. Okay, it's Conor versus Floyd. It's uniquely that one thing. Floyd is driving that ship. He is the bigger star of the two, so you got to do it his way, and he's not coming over to MMA. But these guys that are thinking that, hey, boxing's the way to go, it's like, no, it's not, and it never was. If it was from Jump Street, you would have gone into boxing from Jump Street.
Well, listen, you said something interesting last week, and I didn't even, or again, might have been the week before, I didn't even kind of pick up on it. You said, is this something that we want to see? Well, yeah, we'll watch it. You know, MMA guys will watch it, yeah. Is it something that the boxing fans that are not MMA fans, because there's a ton of them.
Yes.
Boxing, you know, think about it, guys. Boxing is a couple hundred years old. It's hundreds and hundreds of years old. MMA is 25 years, 30 years, something. It just started. So to think we have more MMA fans than there are boxing fans, I don't believe it. I don't buy it. And I don't think that is going to sell, to your point, to the real boxing fan.
Yeah, no, that's right. The boxing community is not behind this fight. The MMA community is. We're pretty fired up about it, actually. And we understand that our guy is going to come in second. We still want to see it. MMA is just hungry for that. You know, you remember the days when MMA thought we had to compete against boxing and we had to compete against professional wrestling. And what we learned in a short period of time was, no, it's the same fan. We're not competing to bring you guys over here and say MMA is the best. No. The guys that watch MMA are the guys that watch Vince's product. They're the ones that watch Bob Arum's product and Don King's show. They don't care. And we didn't know that, but boxing isn't necessarily the same. When you have that hardcore boxing guy, he doesn't really want to see this fight. And so, I mean, I think they do have a couple of tricks there. Now, Ireland is going to get behind it, period. MMA is going to get behind it, period. And there's going to be a lot of media and a lot of boxing people that do get, but this is tremendous business, absolutely tremendous business. But it's not the slam dunk that many people think it is, and it's also not something where, you know, Cody, by example, or Jose, if they're talking about going into this, that is a little bit confusing to me. It's like, hey guys, you're fantastic talents. You guys could have been the best boxers in the world, but a number of years ago, you elected to become the best MMA guys in the world, and you elected to do that for business reasons. The business hasn't changed in boxing for the upturn. It has changed in MMA for the upturn, so stick with MMA. And any of those guys that are looking what Conor's about to do, hey, even Conor isn't going to go do great things without Floyd. It's the perfect storm. It's a one-off. It's a one-time deal. It's a sideshow. It's an oddity. It's all these things that you want to talk about, but it's still real. It's very much real. There's very much an opportunity. But it has to be all of those pieces lined up. There's nobody in the world I can think of that you could say Jose Aldo's going to box, and I'm going to go, wow, I got to see that. Same thing goes with Cody. There is guys you could say Cody's going to go do MMA with, and I'm going to go, wow. In fact, he's got one now. TJ Dillashaw, his former teammate. Incredible storyline. As organic and real as it gets. And same thing with Jose Aldo. Some really incredible storylines built in for MMA for him that weren't there years ago. Nobody really ever cared about Jose. Fantastic talent. He hasn't got people to care. Well, that's changed a little bit. There are people that all of a sudden you're going, you know what? I do want to see that fight. Max Holloway versus Jose. We were that way with Frankie. That fight happened a couple times. Okay, fine. Conor, of course, versus Jose. I mean, there's a lot of things for Jose right now. For him to think, hey, I want to jump ship and go into a different sport. It's just like, hey, Jose, I'm not sure you've thought this through. Your time is finally here. You worked really hard to get it, but go out and enjoy it a little bit.